Right, Steve, we're on Plymouth Barbican. I've just come from New Quay, where in medieval times there was a sanctuary cross, which gave criminals who wanted to seek sanctuary from one of the two monasteries in Plymouth, the Whitefriars and the Greyfriars, they could seek sanctuary there for 40 days. So they were safe. So that was a cross down there. It's gone now, nothing exists. I'm walking up Friars Lane now, which has always been called Friars Lane. There's a sign for it up there. And just at the top of Friars Lane, it joins New Street. Now, New Street in the old days was known as Rag Street, but before that, Greyfriars Street. That's because the road leading from the Southside Street or the end of this New Street, you could come up here and this would be the Greyfriars, this area. Right, Steve, we've just come up Friars Lane and where it joins with New Street, and right in front of us here is the MOUNT EDGCUMBE Masonic Hall. Now, I believe that that is where the Greyfriars stood in the old days, the actual buildings. Some historians said it's down in Worcester Street, the other side of the Barbican. But the names of the streets and some of the leases I've seen describe it as this area at the end of Greyfriars Street, which was New Street. Now, if you look at this map, Steve, this shows, this is not to scale, by the way, this is the castle, Plymouth Castle, St Andrews, the Whitefriars. The only other substantial building here is this one here. This was built later. This, I believe, is the Greyfriars because some of the descriptions say it had a tower with it. Now, we're going to take you inside the Masonic Hall, the MOUNT EDGCUMBE Masonic Hall, for a good reason. There's something in there I'd like you to see.
So, Phil, what happened to the monasteries?
Well, the two monasteries in Plymouth, the Whitefriars and the Greyfriars, in 1533, well, after Henry VIII married Anne Boleyn against the church's wishes, there was a lot of opposition to Henry. The monasteries in Plymouth were against him for what he did. So a lot of the people down this way, a lot of the friars, were sort of put on trial. Father Gawain, one of the most prominent, was actually sent to Launceston jail and imprisoned. Other friars were put in pillories and stocks down on the Barbican. So they were taught a lesson really by the king. When he dissolved the monasteries in 1538, Plymouth, he sent down the Bishop of Dover to Plymouth and dissolved the two friaries in September 1538. Those buildings were later sold off to private enterprise. But at the time, there was a lot of problems because the people of Plymouth liked these friaries because they did a lot of good for the people of Plymouth. They helped the poor. They would stand at a cross, like St Andrew's Cross and other crosses around the town, and preach. So people didn't have to go to the churches if they didn't want to. Right, Steve, I'm now going into MOUNT EDGCUMBE Masonic Hall, and I think you'll be quite surprised at what we've got to show you inside. Okay. Oh, man. It's like Fort Knox, isn't it?
Sorry?
Like Fort Knox.
That block was round, you're locked in.
Okay. So if you come back next week, there's a couple of skeletons here.
Yeah.
Oh, man, see. Oh. Oh, dear. We don't know what it is, you see. They said there was no town wall. But I believed in the Civil War, they built a wall here. They built some kind of wall because it's mentioned in the accounts and it was faced with stone. But it could be, this could be the Greyfriars Monastery. Some of this could be the Greyfriars Monastery. Have they never done anything under here?
No.
See, because it's a very thick wall.
There,
oh, yeah.
there's tunnels in there.
Wow, catacombs.
Down there, this is blocked off.
Yeah.
There, blocked off. I start digging it and I put bullocks up there.
Oh, pity you couldn't get an archaeological team in here, because
It's because
if there's tunnels here, I reckon it's got to be the monastic building, the
down
Greyfriars.
there to the Barbican.
Oh, really?
Tunnel going up there
You hear that, Steve?
to the prison.
God. How far can you get?
Only that much.
Really?
If you go in there.
Oh, wow.
Well, Phil, this really is exceptional, isn't it?
Isn't it good?
And I have to wonder just how many people in Plymouth who are interested in history have ever seen this.
Not many.
It's hidden away.
It's hidden in the basement,
Yeah.
along Citadel Road East. Like I said, the Mount Edgecumbe Masonic Hall.
It's gone out.
Yours? Doesn't matter, you've got a picture of me. It looks like, to me, this is an earlier wall. This is why what I think could be part of the old monastic building, the Greyfriars. And then at the time of the Civil War, when they built an inner wall and kept reinforcing it over the 4 years, this could be added on. There's an aperture here, if you see, Steve. Some kind of aperture. Don't know if it went all the way through or what, but it looks like part of the town wall.
Wall here, Phil, looks, if it's added on to this bit here.
Yes.
Could you just do that with your hand, please,
Yes.
Phil? So this bit upwards,
Yep. This is the new piece. It looks like a newer piece
Yes.
on top of an older
which
piece.
is this piece here.
Yes.
And it's the really, really thick bit,
It's
isn't
very thick. This is. It
I
looks
mean,
about 10 foot thick.
It's incredibly thick.
You can see how they've built it. Just picked up all the stones. Like I said, it could be some of the stone from the old Greyfriars, because that's what they used. There's some stone over there. There's a sort of an archway leading there. That's not old. That's new. But it looks like, if you go in there, there's apparently tunnels leading off to the left and right.
So let's look in here then, see what we can see. There's a passageway leading off there and a passageway leading off there. Well, we're in the tunnel now. And it, to me, has got a look of an air raid shelter. Corrugated iron that could have been used to reinforce the roof. And over here, looks very much like it could have been some sort of escape hatch. And there's another blocked up aperture here. I'm inside what may be the escape exit now, and it looks as if the opening has been blocked with concrete slabs with iron reinforcement, which has a look to me of a blocked emergency access. It's certainly not 1954 vintage when the Masonic Hall was built, and that's an interesting pattern there, those X's. How very interesting. I feel I'm standing in somewhere that's very, very old. The vertical brick wall has a look of a 1940s air raid shelter toilet. I just wonder if the space on the left could have been a WC. I've seen it in lots of other places just like this. Well, here we are through the little adit type entrance we have here. And it definitely has the look of a 1940s air raid shelter now, with the corrugated roof put in for reinforcement. So I think that's pretty almost certain what it was, how they've made use of existing buildings. There's another space behind us. Quite often they would make use of existing basements and alter them, reinforce them. And just on my left here could be where the electric cable could have run along. Or actually, it's noticed on the other side, it may have been just to like a drip tray for any condensation that came off here to run along here. Here we can see Phil. Give us away, Phil. Who's looking through the other aperture there. We can see the corrugated iron ceiling. That leads to another rectangular access to a space within. I always find underground spaces calm, tranquil and still. This one is just the same. I don't know what the type of cut hole at the end here. It seems to go from the bottom right through to what would be the surface. It could have been a ventilation. It's not big enough for another escape hatch. But it was there for a reason. People never did things for no reason. We can see lovely here, look, at that roof. Well, that was the most unexpected. We came looking for something from the 15th century, and we found something from a world war in the mid-20th century. So I think the question is, what building was here in World War II that the civil defence people took advantage of it being built on a hill, which meant you can get the underground protection? Fascinating. It just goes to show in Plymouth there's always history to be found if you just look. Well, it looks like we've now left 1940s and we're travelling back in time to when, Phil?
1640s.
1640s.
300 years before.
What do we have over here?
Well, to me, this is the best part of the wall. This is the finished wall. This is like a return. It goes down to there where the other part was, which is not so good. But if you look at this, look, real workmanship had gone into this piece of walling. So it's sort of an L shape. And if you look at the old map of the Civil War, there's Plymouth Fort. This is the wall. Now, it looks like it could be that return. It could be another one here. But it looks like one of those angles is on this map. Proof that there was a wall around Plymouth during the Civil War.
So, Phil, am I right in thinking that you're talking about the wall of the English Civil War in Plymouth being built on the foundations of the earlier Greyfriars construction? Yes,
some of this would still be here. Some of the walls would have been very low, a couple of feet at the most. Because if we talk about the Whitefriars, that friary mill, you could still see when they did excavations, there was still a couple of feet of walls there, foundations. So it looks like they've utilised the old part of the old wall of the monastery, or some part of the building, and just added on. But it's a better finish on this. So it looks like they've had a wall all the way around here. So this wall would have gone to your left, but unfortunately there's nothing left of that. But there must be something in basements further down. Because this row, in that direction is Holgate.
Correct.
Yes, Holgate.
So it's in the right.
It's on the line. It's on the alignment. Yeah, it's on the alignment of a wall.
Phil,
yeah.
Would we be on the inside of the wall?
Yes.
Or the outside?
You'd be on the inside. Yes, on the inside.
No.
Because this. Yes, this is the inside of the wall.
Where I am is inside.
Me too, I think. Because this went around for some reason. Yeah.
Such history, Phil.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Oh, it's phenomenal, and yet so lost.
Yeah, like I say, if I wasn't for a friend of mine, Wes Ashton, who brought me in here for a few years back, I'd never have known this existed. And there was always people who said there was never a wall around Plymouth. Well, come and look at this and tell me there was no wall around Plymouth. And the GREYFRIARS Monastery wasn't here. I believe it was in this area. Right, if you look at the workmanship here, this looks like the older part, and this is add-on, because this goes all the way around, and it looks like this wall extended in this direction, which is north. And there's another one there, that wall there, just where the return was earlier. This is another wall that goes on. Yes, it looks like it's a... So it may be some old building from the monastery, and then they put the town wall on top, because the town wall, it sort of starts off in the same direction. You see, it goes to where this building was here. It looks like a wall went this way, if you see the way of the stone as well. And the return wall, so this went that way. Crazy to think of that, isn't it? I wish we had a map of it. I wish we had some diagrams, just to show us what we're looking at, really.
And also,
this is all conjecture.
There's these holes here, look.
That could have been later add-ons, because they don't make sense. That could be add-ons. See, there's holes here. That could be someone's piled something in there for some reason.
What it makes me think of is a temporary wooden roof on it.
They're too small. You'd have to have been... When you look at older buildings, they're massive.
Yes, they are.
You know, they're quite big. It's like a 4x2 piece of wood going in there. But that aperture always... It always fascinates me. I wish I was an expert and I knew what I was talking about, really. But this is all guesswork. But it's history, and I love history. Right, Steve, so now you've seen where I believe the GREYFRIARS once stood. It's hard to think of it now when you look around. There is old wall there, but how old is that wall? You don't know. Now, after the dissolution of the monasteries, the White Friars in Plymouth and the GREYFRIARS in Plymouth, the buildings went into disrepair. They were let to go. People robbed them of their stones. When the priory at Plymouth was taken over by Henry VIII, was dissolved a year later, a lot of that stone went to make the village of Underwood, to build the houses in the village of Underwood. So I'm sure if you go to Underwood and see some of the older houses, you might see some ecclesiastical stones that were part of Plymouth Priory. But like I said, they dissolved, they were sold off to people. The first man who bought the White Friars died 5 years later without paying any of the money to the crown. So that was resold. Both of them were resold to another family in Plymouth, who just flattened the sites eventually and built on them. So there's nothing really left to show the two friaries that were in Plymouth. Nothing exists. When you go to other towns like Gloucester, you can see friary buildings still there that are still remain. It gives you an idea what they look like. In Plymouth, there's nothing left, unfortunately.
But we have found a little bit today.
We found a little bit. We're not 100% sure, because like I said, it's only guesswork, but it's on the right spot.
And it's through the blue...
The Mount EDGCUMBE Masonic Hall. Yeah.
Phil, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. That was a good day.